If you're interested in increasing your chances of getting accepted to an elite consulting firm like McKinsey, Bain, or BCG, then this video is for you. I'm going to talk about the only 3 things that you need to focus on when you're applying to these firms. So let's dive in. Oh, and by the way, if you're new here, my name is Neel, and on this channel, I like to make content that helps you more confidently apply to the big 3 consulting firms. I did so from a non-target school, and I was lucky enough to get an offer. And so I want to make sure that you, regardless of your background or what school you went to, are able to do the same. And in this video, as you know, we're going to talk about the 3 things that I think you need to focus on if you want to get an offer from one of these firms. The first one is that you have to have a resume that's good enough for you to get an interview. The second thing that you need to focus on is being able to network. Specifically, you need to be able to leave positive impressions with the people at these firms who are going to evaluate your application and decide whether you get this interview. And then third, well, actually, before I say the third, I want to give a quick ask, which is that I make these videos for free. I don't make any money. We don't have sponsorships, but it's to help you all. And so I'd like to ask you all to like the video and then also subscribe. It costs literally $0, but helps us out tremendously. So we'd really appreciate it. But anyway, the third thing that you need to focus on to get into the big 3 consulting firms, and honestly the most important, is being a phenomenal caser. Once you get that interview, the thing that is going to make that interview turn into an offer is you being a good caser. The absolute first thing that you need to do to be able to get into one of these firms, you need to have a good resume. And obviously because 1, they ask for it in every application, but 2, it conveys a lot about you, and not just what you've done in college or what your test scores are, or what your extracurriculars are, but a lot more. For example, resumes convey a lot about how you communicate and how you view problems and solve them. Some people on their resumes are abstract, vague, unspecific, and write generally in a way that doesn't make sense. You can't actually understand what they're doing based on how they write. Versus other people on their resume, they're very clean, crisp, they understand the value that they drove, the impact that had, and even how much revenue or profit or whatever they increase, they convey their impact in numbers. And that's super important. And if you didn't watch our last resume video, I highly recommend you do that. But with all of that being said, a resume is only one of the 3 things, and honestly, it's just even a part of the equation for you getting an interview. So that leads us to the next point. Networking. And I realize networking has a honestly pretty cringy and kind of bad reputation, but I want to share with you the way that I think about networking and I define it, and I think it'll make it more clear, feel more natural, and just make sense why you need to do it, but won't make it feel weird. In my eyes, networking really is just trying to have genuine and interesting conversations with people who will potentially be your future colleagues, boss, business partner, or friends. And so in that respect, you're going into the conversation, you're going into the interaction, genuinely interested and excited to hear about their life and what got them to that specific point. Maybe they're a consultant at a consulting firm that you care about and want to learn more about their experience. Maybe there's someone who works at a startup that you're really interested in. But regardless, because you have that genuine interest, it's not just a conversation that you're having to get something from them. You're genuinely trying to learn more about them. And honestly, thinking about it, who doesn't enjoy talking about themselves to someone who is genuinely interested in them? And so when I say networking, this is what I mean. And you might say, Neel, not everyone is someone that I feel that interested in or that I think I could genuinely have an interesting conversation with. And that's fine. Then just only set your sights on wanting to reach out to and talk to people that you think you would have interesting conversations with and that you are excited to talk about. Because there's no point in trying to have conversations where it takes a lot of energy and might not give you that much energy or might not give you that much value. But anyway, I want to explain to you 2 reasons why I think networking is really critical. The first one is that it helps you stand out. It's not a surprise that these big 3 or elite consulting firms get a lot of resumes and a lot of applications with people who have a high GPA, really good experiences on campus, fantastic internships, and just overall stellar candidates. But the thing that's going to make people stick out versus others who might be also equally qualified is whether they've put in the time to reach out and have conversations with the consultants that are reviewing their application and showing their interest or showing their persistence in wanting to get into this firm or wanting to learn more about the role. The second reason networking is important, and honestly probably more important than the first one, is that it helps you build the confidence that you need to know that this company that you're about to apply to is a company that you're excited about. Networking and application cycles should honestly be seen as a 2-way street where, of course, the company is evaluating you, but you should be evaluating the company too. And so let's say that, for example, you reach out to and talk to 3 people at a firm and all of those conversations go terribly. You either find that they're all super boring or that you just don't like them or that they might come off like people you don't want to be around. That gives you enough to know that you don't want to apply to that firm and that you don't need to waste your time. So it's a win-win, right? It's either you have conversations that make you more excited and solidify your confidence of wanting to apply, or the opposite, and you can just save your time. So I'm curious, if you're sold on the fact that networking is important and that you need to be doing it, but there's maybe some hesitation you have, comment below. I'd love to know what it is so that I can make future videos about how you can best network. Because me personally, I've had a ton of value by just being able to go and reach out to people on LinkedIn who I've never met in person. Otherwise, I'll make sure to link a networking video that we made a long time ago that I think is a great resource for those of y'all who are just learning to figure out how to use LinkedIn to reach out to people. So now you have a killer resume, you've networked your butt off, had great conversations with people, even got some referrals, and all of that has led to you getting an email saying that you have a first round interview at the consulting firm of your dreams. But now what? Well, the most important has yet to come, and that third and final piece of the video, case interviewing. And that's what's going to be the thing that sets you apart and gets you that offer from that elite consulting firm. Now quickly, for those of y'all who might not know what case interviewing is or might have heard about it but don't really know what it is, let me explain first. The most important thing that you need to know is that it's honestly 80 to 90% of why you will get the offer or not. Case interviewing is the most important part of the entire consulting process. In a case interview, you sit down with an interviewer. Usually it's going to be a consultant or maybe a manager at a consulting firm, and you basically run through a business problem. It's essentially a condensed version of what consulting firms actually face. So you might be in a scenario where you're helping a client increase profitability after it's been down for 5 years, trying to develop a go-to-market strategy for a new industry, or just coming up with some creative problem to a solution that they have. But throughout that process, the interviewer is testing your ability to think critically, have business acumen when trying to solve these problems, and then also being able to use math and use your creative skills to come to solutions, all while you talk through your thought process and communicate in a concise and quick manner what you're thinking to the interviewer. And any of you all who have any case experience or who have seen your friend's case, you know that it is not an easy thing, but the good news is anyone can learn it. You don't have to be a business or a finance major for you to be good at casing. Take that from me. For example, I majored in mechanical engineering and took literally business classes, but because I spent a lot of time improving my skills of casing and casing with a lot of people, I was able to get good enough to be able to get an interview, and then eventually good enough to get the offer as well. And so there is hope, even if you're not a business person. And a bonus, if you want to see what it looks like for 2 real consultants who have worked at these firms to case each other live and then give high quality feedback, go check out some of these videos, all of which are linked in the description. And that'll be a great introduction for you to understand what casing is like, and even a good resource and play along video for you to use as you're doing your own case prep process leading up to the interviews. So I'd say go do that. But for now, I'm going to leave you with 3 tips or 3 ideas that I think will help you along your case prep journey. The first one is that you need time. Casing and learning that skill is not an overnight skill for most people. And so I would say give yourself 2-3 months. Start maybe at the beginning of the summer if you think consulting interviews are going to be in August or September. The second thing that you should do is case with people live. I've seen way too many people who don't get good enough at casing because they just read cases to themselves in their bed, rather than going and casing and practicing like you would during an interview. In an interview, you're not reading a case. Someone's giving it to you and they're there making it seem a little intimidating and nervous. So you need to simulate that situation before you actually get into the interview. And the third and last tip that I'd give is to use our resources. There's a reason we've made this channel, and we've made everything for free. From the case books that you can find on the Google Drive link, also linked below, to our videos where we, like I said earlier, case either each other or other people and then give feedback. And so worst case scenario, there might be a day or 2 where you can't case with someone live. Try running through our case videos where we allow you to follow along. And the last thing that I'll say about casing before we end the video is that if you're casing while you're also networking with consultants, and you might maybe mention that you're casing, that's going to earn you serious brownie points because they're going to know that you're taking it seriously. I cannot tell you how many times people have reached out to me to learn more about consulting or to convey that they're really interested and serious. But then I ask them, oh, how many cases have you run? And they're like, oh, I guess I haven't started that yet. And it might be a month before interviews come around, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like, if you're serious about it, you would have started casing by now. And of course, you don't have to get on the phone with the consultant and say, hey, my name is Neel, I'm interested in consulting, and I've already cased, right? Like, just maybe there's a subtle way to bring it up in the conversation. So you should do that, or maybe they'll ask, right? And then the second thing that's important is knowing that some of the people that you network with early on, if you do it early enough before the interviews, especially if they're consultants, might be also people that you can then ask to run cases with. And if you can run a case with a consultant who's actually at a consulting firm, or someone who is an alumni of a consulting firm, they're going to give you the best feedback that you could have ever imagined, because they've done it themselves and they know what good and really good looks like. And so with that, I wish you good luck, and of course use our channel as resources. And if there's any additional things that we should make videos on, comment below. But otherwise, we'll see y'all next video.